My name is Sarah. I work as an office worker. I live with my husband, Thomas, who is the same age as me, and our 5-year-old son, Joseph. I met my husband at a party hosted by a friend. Reassured by his straightforwardness and enthusiastic pursuit, we ended up getting married. Initially, after marriage, he was very proactive in doing household chores and was very supportive. I felt fortunate to be married to him and thought everything was going well. However, the days of happiness seemed to crumble unexpectedly early. In the second year of our marriage, I became pregnant. My husband was happy about it and believed that even happier days were ahead. However, reality proved to be different. As my belly grew, I noticed him becoming increasingly distant. I assumed he was feeling the pressure of becoming a father and didn't press the issue. I thought his attitude would change once the baby arrived. However, when Joseph was born, his behavior changed even more. Even though he saw me struggling with childcare and exhausted from giving birth, he didn't lift a finger to help. He would get irritated by Joseph's crying at night and often slept in a separate room. I took a 1-year maternity leave from work, but because he wasn't supportive of childcare, I found myself struggling every day. He started coming home later and later. Since I also work full-time, I hoped we could share the household and childcare responsibilities. However, my husband rarely came home early, even when I asked. It's tough doing everything alone. Can't you come home a little earlier? I would ask.
I'm working long hours to provide for Joseph. If you don't like it, work part-time.
He would reply. No matter how much I talked to him, he didn't seem willing to compromise on my working hours. If we could live on his income alone, it would be a different story. But since that wasn't enough, I returned to work after just 1 year. It seemed like he didn't realize that if my income decreased, our household income would too. Plus, I was often unhappy with how he would come home drunk.
Drinking with business partners is part of the job.
My husband is self-employed. Because he needs to build relationships with clients, he actively participates in these drinking parties. Since I've never experienced self-employment, I wondered if these drinking parties were necessary every day. As Joseph, who is now 5 years old, started to understand things a bit, he seemed to be feeling resentful towards his absent father.
Why doesn't Dad ever eat with us? He sleeps all day on his days off.
Joseph would ask. Feeling it wasn't good for him to dislike his father so much, I would say, Dad works hard outside for us. Let's support him, okay? He would reluctantly reply. Even though I tried to pacify him, he didn't seem convinced. On weekdays, things continued like this, and on weekends, my husband would sleep until late afternoon, leaving little time to play with Joseph. Instead, he would spend the afternoon lounging in his room or frequently going out for drinks. Joseph doesn't like it, and at least on weekends, we spend time together. I would say.
It's work, I've told you. You're always so naggy.
He'd reply. Despite my numerous warnings about his frequent drinking parties, he would only get in a bad mood. I tried to soothe Joseph and spent every evening having dinner together, just the two of us. During that time, I was assigned a business trip on Saturday. Knowing my husband, I expected him to express dissatisfaction about spending Saturday alone with Joseph. So, with trepidation, I told him about the business trip. I have a business trip next Saturday, staying overnight. Can you take care of Joseph for me? I asked. To my surprise, he became cheerful. Sure, I'll take care of him. Since we have the chance, let's go to my parents' house. His response was the opposite of what I expected, and I was very surprised. He happily contacted his parents.
I just called them, and they suggested we go on a trip. Let's go as a family of 4.
He said. Joseph would surely be happy about the trip. I thought it was a great opportunity to make up for not spending much time with him. Since my husband said he would happily take care of Joseph, I felt relieved to go on the business trip. And so, on the weekend, I left home early in the morning for a business trip. Say hello to your parents for me, I said.
I got it. Have a safe trip,
he replied. I felt relieved by his cheerful demeanor, as always. Although it was work, I was looking forward to spending a day alone doing whatever I wanted before and after work. The destination for my business trip is about a 2-hour train ride away. Come to think of it, this place is near Thomas's parents' house. The scenery from the train brought back nostalgic feelings. It's been a while since I've been here, so I should visit more often. I remember coming to the department store in front of the station with Joseph. He was only 3 years old at the time. After lunch, he started clamoring for a crepe. He cried so much that I had no choice but to buy one. In the end, Joseph, who was already full, took just one bite of the crepe and couldn't eat properly, and it made me smile. Since it was a place we didn't usually go to, I think I indulged him a bit. I remember his crying was so loud, it surprised me. As I reminisced about the memories with him, I heard a boy's voice.
I want to eat a crepe.
But you just had lunch. You can't eat anymore.
But I want to.
That boy is saying the same thing as Joseph. I thought as I looked towards the source of the voice, and what I saw surprised me. Huh? Joseph? Joseph and my in-laws. For some reason, my husband wasn't there. Wasn't he supposed to go on a trip? In an instant, I felt my heart racing. Maybe he went to the restroom. Maybe the trip got cancelled. Various thoughts raced through my mind, and my head was in turmoil. Unable to understand, I decided to call him to confirm his whereabouts. Hello, where are you right now?
Huh? Where? I'm at the hot springs with my parents.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that's right.
Good luck with your business trip. See you later.
With that, he hung up. As I listened to the disconnected call tone, I just stood there dumbfounded. I realized that he had told a huge lie. Convinced that something was amiss, I decided to investigate my husband's actions following this incident. When I returned home on Sunday evening, I deliberately avoided asking him about how he and Joseph spent the weekend. It was also very unusual for Joseph not to talk about his weekend. Sensing something was off, I focused on gathering evidence. The next day, my husband went to a drinking party after work again. He seemed quite drunk when he came home and immediately fell asleep on the living room sofa. Sigh, so annoying. My honest thoughts and sighs slipped out in response to my husband being more drunk than usual. Doing housework while looking at my husband passed out was not a pleasant feeling. After finishing the chores, and leaving him on the sofa, as I was about to head to the bedroom, his phone chimed with a notification sound. This might be my chance, so I quietly picked up his phone. Feeling a mix of wanting to see and not wanting to see, I checked the screen. Thanks for today. I want to see you again. When I saw that message, my suspicions from before turned into certainty. I touched the screen of his phone, and it unlocked easily. Carelessly, it wasn't locked. With trembling hands, I looked through all the message history. The contents were unbelievable, and it made me dizzy. He was keeping a terrible secret. The following weekend, my husband said he would take our son to his parents' house.
You couldn't rest last week, right? You should relax by yourself this week.
I know what he is planning to do next. But it's not the time to expose it yet. So, I pretended not to know anything and thanked him. Thanks. Then, let's relax and watch a movie at home. I pretended to be happy with my acting skills, which were so bad that I even made myself laugh. My husband didn't see through my acting, and he seemed visibly relieved that I was staying home. Have a good time, both of you. After seeing them off at the entrance, I made a call to a certain place. Yes, I wanted to ask you today. Is it okay? Thank you. I cleared the first step of the plan. Although I felt relieved for a moment, I had to move on to the next action immediately. First, I decided to secretly follow them. It's another cliché disguise, but I put on the hat I bought for this day, pulled it down low, and watched from a distance. Sure enough, my husband left Joseph alone at his parents' house. Since I already knew what he would do next, all I needed to do was gather evidence. Suddenly, I looked at Joseph, who had a lonely expression. Seeing his face made my heart ache. I can't let my husband, who makes Joseph feel lonely, get away with it without consequences. Turning away from my in-laws' house, I followed him to a cafe, the designated meeting place.
Oh, there you are. Sorry for the wait.
A young woman arrived there. My husband and the woman walked arm in arm and disappeared into a nearby hotel. I immediately took a picture of them. I was disappointed with his reckless behavior, which allowed me to easily take incriminating photos. A few minutes later, at a time when he would have entered the room, I called him.
Hello.
What are you doing right now?
Huh. I'm at my parents' house. Why do you ask?
My husband spoke in an anxious voice. I thought I'd ask you to do some shopping on your way back. As I cheerfully responded, his tone also brightened, perhaps relieved.
Oh, is that all? Shopping is fine, but my parents asked if we could stay overnight again today, so I was thinking of doing that.
I see. Then, go shopping alone, it's okay. My husband was about to leave Joseph at his parents' house again. I felt anger towards him for not having the awareness of a father, but I desperately hid those emotions so as not to be noticed. I don't have any affection left for him. Who keeps lying? I hung up the phone and decided to go pick up Joseph, who must be feeling lonely. Hello. I've come to pick up Joseph. When I arrived at my in-laws' house, they looked puzzled.
Huh? I heard both Thomas and Sarah had plans today. Are you okay now?
I don't have any plans. As I said so, my in-laws looked even more bewildered.
Mom, listen. Dad said he'd play with me, but he left by himself. This is the second time. I hate Dad.
Joseph, who ran over when he heard my voice, had a face that seemed angry and lonely. I'm sorry. Let's go home right away. Let's play a game with Mom.
Yay. I'll get my stuff.
After confirming that he went inside to get his belongings, I told my in-laws the truth.
I have no idea what's going on.
I'll be sending you details via email. I don't want to talk about it in front of this child.
I see. Understood.
Leaving that, I went home. My husband's affair partner was a staff member at BR's store. This was information I gathered from the messages. However, a staff member, a woman named Rebecca, seems unaware and has no ill intentions, as she thinks he is single. My husband had a relationship with Rebecca while hiding the fact that he had a wife and child. From the conversation in the messages, it seemed Rebecca was contacting him for business purposes. My husband, believing her intentions, mentioned spending money if they had a relationship. Rebecca was probably dazzled by the money, repeatedly meeting him under the pretext of him being single. I concluded that living with him was impossible. Before tailing him, I explained the situation to my parents and arranged for them to move my belongings today. My parents were furious with him and agreed to help me. Joseph, I'm thinking of staying with Grandma from today. What do you think?
Yeah, that's fine.
He was engrossed in a game, so I'm not sure if he heard me or not. I thought I should explain the future properly.
Welcome back. What a disaster. Your stuff arrived, so I put it in your room.
When I arrived at my parents' house, they greeted me with smiles.
Joseph, I made steak for you.
Yay. I love Grandma's steak.
Seeing him happy about his favorite steak relieved me. Our house and my parents' house weren't far apart, so we visited them occasionally. Perhaps that's why Joseph was fond of both parents and didn't mind suddenly coming to my parents' house. Lots of cardboard boxes were being carried into the room. Since I noticed the cheat, I have been gradually packing my things. Knowing my husband was meeting Rebecca that day, I hired movers and moved all my belongings. Honestly, I was anxious about how it would go, but everything went smoothly and was a great success. I won't be going back to that house anymore, that's for sure. While sorting out the stuff, my husband called.
Sarah, what's going on?
He seemed quite anxious. Yes? What's going on?
Well, you see, I got a call from my parents, rushed to their house, and Joseph wasn't there. It seems you've misunderstood something too.
Is that so? Misunderstood?
Yeah, it's a misunderstanding. My parents seem to have misunderstood too, and they even scolded me.
I see.
And when I got home, your stuff and Joseph's stuff was gone. What's going on?
That's it. I can't live with you anymore. There's nothing more to talk about. Goodbye. I hung up the phone while desperately trying to keep calm. It's too late to say anything now. After that, he called several times, but I ignored them. Joseph, I need to talk to you. I also needed to talk to Joseph properly. Son, Dad, were you getting along with another lady? Huh? Did you hear that? He must be shocked to hear such a thing. I was choosing my words to follow up, but Joseph spoke up.
I heard. I don't want a dad like that. It's more fun with Grandpa and Grandma.
It seemed his feelings toward his father had already disappeared. I consulted a lawyer about the future course of action. Since I had sufficient evidence, it seemed it would be easy to get a favorable divorce. I obtained evidence of the affair directly from Rebecca. My husband and you're having a cheat, right?
I'm sorry. He offered me money, so I went along with it. But I never intended to cheat. He said he wasn't married.
I believe you. If you provide evidence of a cheat, I won't sue you for damages, but what will you do?
Understood. I'll tell you everything.
She tearfully revealed everything. She must have been trying too hard to earn a living. Meeting clients outside the store was against the rules, she said. She promised not to tell the story about what she did and obtained information about my husband. The period my husband cheated with Rebecca was the 5 years since Joseph was born. Given the long duration of the affair, the amount of damages was considerable. Afterward, I obtained a large sum of damages and child support and was able to divorce smoothly. As for my ex-husband, he was abandoned by his family, and the contact with the woman he was infatuated with ceased. Furthermore, he had to pay damages, so he was left with nothing. His job was also affected as information about his affair leaked from somewhere. He lost the trust of his business partners, and his income plummeted. Now, he's working multiple part-time jobs just to make ends meet. Tired of a life where he lost everything, he sought help from his parents-in-law, but they treated him as if he were disowned and wouldn't listen to him. I hope he reflects on his actions and works hard to improve himself. Joseph and I decided to continue living at my parents' house. He seems livelier since coming to my parents' house and can live without inconvenience. He's still attending the same kindergarten, so it's just a change of residence for him. I'm relieved to see that he doesn't seem to be particularly stressed. Seeing him happily smiling, I'm convinced that divorcing was the right decision. How did you find this story? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Well then, let's meet again in the next video.